Good morning or good day to wherever you are in the world, and then whatever time it is for you. I'm feeling very lucky that it's a perfectly reasonable time in the morning for me to be here. I'm really excited to have been invited to speak today. This is such an important issue for us to be discussing at the international level. I'm here to talk specifically about the UK context, but it is really interesting to see how these things develop in the wider ecosystem. So really interested in the topics covered today. I was in a talk on Friday where somebody made a joke about how nobody wakes up in the morning thinking about digital identity, and I had to put my hands up and say, well, I sort of do. This is my life. It is the job of my team and I to enable the use of digital identity products across the United Kingdom economy. And we also want to make those products interoperable across the world. We know that there's a need for us to do this in the UK. There's huge economic gains for us here if we can get it right. We've estimated, thanks to some research, that we could be saving £800 million a year to UK businesses if we can get widespread use of digital identity and attribute products. And we've also seen increasingly the rise of fraud and identity-enabled crime, making people feel very insecure when they are using digital products. So we want to make sure that digital identity solutions can resolve that to some extent, can make it easier to stay safe and secure online. But we also see a benefit of privacy with these things. At the moment in the UK, if you need to prove something about yourself, you tend to present an array of documents: your passport, your driver's license, some utility bills, and all of that contains quite a lot of data about you, which may be a lot more than the person who's checking you needs to see. So there are ways that these things can also protect your privacy and make sure that you're only giving away information about yourself that's really necessary for whatever the transaction is that you're facing. Over this recent pandemic that we are all still struggling through, we know that it's been a catalyst for increasingly moving transactions online. And here in the UK, it's highlighted where the reliance on paper documents checking to verify your identity has become quite tricky. So when people have needed to apply for benefits, where people have wanted to buy houses, where people have wanted to start work in new jobs, the need to physically go and present yourself and your documents to say, I am who I say I am, and here's something that proves it, has become really tricky and has made it clear why it's so important to be able to prove these things online in a way that is trustworthy, and that the person hearing that can go, yeah, I know that that's trustworthy. I can employ you, I can sell you a house. I know that this is going to be a safe transaction. So we know that the challenge for digital identity and attribute products use in the UK is trust. It's not technology. This technology, there have been solutions for this around for many years. I'm sure there will be new and exciting, innovative solutions coming down the track, but that's not for government to worry about. We think that, the industry can come up with these exciting tech. The issue is that however good the tech is, if the person using it or the person who's being shown the digital identity doesn't trust it, it doesn't matter how amazing the tech is, it's no use. So we really need to find ways for people to use these things and be trusted when they use them. And there is quite a lot of mistrust and concern when we talk about digital identity use here in the UK. There's a lot of worry that we're trying to introduce ID cards, identity databases, that this is the government trying to track its citizens, those sorts of concerns. And my team and I spend quite a lot of our energies trying to explain what it is we are doing and what it is we're not doing. So we're not mandating the use. We are not creating kind of one database to rule them all. We are trying to make it easier for people who want to use a digital identity to do so and to find that it is useful and trusted when they do. And I think that raises one of the issues that I'm sure will come up in this conference, which is that trust has to be created in the context that it's in. We are often look on and have pointed to us the examples of some of the Nordics, some of the other countries that have successfully created digital identity solutions, which are really exciting. But of course, they're based on systems that we don't have here in the UK. So because we don't have national identity cards or identity data sets, that means that we have to rely on different things to create trust. And we know that that trust that citizens have would be undermined if we did it by creating an identity database. So we've got to make sure that we can create that trust in a context that works for the UK, but also that is robust enough that our international colleagues who are using other approaches can look at it and go, yeah, that's good. We know that this could be used in our settings as well. Now, we started our work in building this trust by creating some principles. I'd say these are no surprises principles. I don't think anyone would look at them and massively disagree with them. But for us, it was really important to put a line in the sand right at the start of our work to say, these are the things that really matter to us. And these are the things that are going to guide us as we create the frameworks that will enable digital identity use here in the UK. So our 6 principles were about privacy, transparency. And by that, I mean that people want to know what's happening with their data, what's happening when they sign up for a product. That was the strongest message we got. It wasn't actually, I want you to keep everything private. It was, I want to know exactly what you're doing. So privacy and transparency. Inclusivity, we want to make sure that this isn't something that's only available to people who have high-end smartphones, who are already able to navigate the digital economy pretty successfully. We want anyone who wishes to be able to use digital identity products. And indeed, the great win that we see is to make it easier for those who currently struggle to prove their identity. If we can make that easier for them, then that's a massive win for us. So inclusivity really matters. Interoperability, we don't want people to have multiple digital identity products to be able to navigate the economy. And that also means international interoperability as well. So we're really looking at trying to set standards that everyone can recognize and work to. And we think that's the key route to interoperability. The 5th principle is about proportionality. So are we making sure that the rules and the regulations we put around this are proportional to the activity, and also that the products can alter dependent on the use case you've got in front of you. So the level of trust you need to be able to say, yes, I'm over 18, I can buy this bottle of wine, is a different level of trust to, yes, I can buy £1 million house. And we need to be able to have proportional systems that allow that trust to be created for those different needs. If you have to jump through all the hoops it takes to get yourself a bottle of wine that it takes to buy a house, then we might not get the use that we need. So we really do need to make sure that we've got that proportionality built in. And our final one is about good governance. We need this to be proportional, but we also need it to make sure that it aligns with what is already out there in the UK, that it works with existing laws, and that people recognise it as ascribing to the British values and the way that identity is managed now, so that it's not stepping into new territory in ways that people feel uncomfortable. And I'm sure that whilst those principles might be applied in different ways internationally, I have no doubt that the words themselves would make a lot of sense right across the globe. I do want to come back to the inclusion point, because for me, that's one of the key reasons why government needs to act as opposed to just letting industry do its thing. We know that it can be tricky at the moment in the UK to prove who you are sufficiently to do things like start a job, get a house, get a rental agreement. And we think that there is a huge role for digital identity in the UK to help with that, to make it possible to do these things if you don't have a passport. And indeed, the COVID pandemic may make that even more important, as a larger group of people haven't bothered to renew their passports in recent months, and are suddenly finding that they don't have a valid document that they can use for these purposes. So it is really important that we have focused on that right from the start, that we're building it in, and we're talking to industry straight away about how we can manage this and make sure that we have digital identity products that meet the needs of everybody in the UK who wants to use them. We've been working pretty quickly to deliver this as fast as we can. I'm sure industry would tell you not fast enough, but we're doing our best. These things do need to jump through a few hoops. We had to stop some of our work for the COVID-19 pandemic, but back in September last year, we regathered our forces and managed to publish our call for evidence response, which made it clear what it was that the UK government was going to do, and very, very clearly committed to doing what only the UK government could do, and getting out of the way of those things that others in this space, in the ecosystem, can manage. So the UK government needs to set the standards so that everybody can agree this is what good looks like, and if you're using these standards, I can trust you. So we know that standards are key to trust. So we've been working really hard with industry, with civil society, to set those standards. And we've published what we're calling an alpha version of our trust framework. And we've been testing that hugely. So first of all, we were testing it on paper, so getting people to read it and to tell us, did it work for their products? Did it work for particular use cases? Did it work for particular people? And now we're moving into, okay, so if we've got the standards, how do you check that all of those who say they are following them? So we're now testing the certification process against those standards. And we're going to keep testing so that by the time this thing becomes a live document, which we hope to happen in the next year or so, that we really are sure it works for the people and the businesses that want to rely on it. We have been engaging massively to get this right. The UK government, we're good at lots of things, but we're not going to get this right if my team and I are sitting with towels over our heads thinking big thoughts. We're only going to get this right if we test what we're thinking constantly with industry and with civil society to say, are we getting this right? Does it work in the real world? And we think that that collaborative, open approach where we share our thinking, we take on board the feedback and we change, is how we're going to get this right and build that trust that we do think is so important for this to work for us. So we've got a consultation out at the moment, which is pre-legislative. So we're hoping to get some legislation through in the next year or so to be able to make it much clearer that digital identity products can be used, but also to enable more government data sets to be checked so that you can prove who you are here in the UK, not just by having a passport, but for example, by checking against your benefit statements or other bits of information that government already holds on you. And you've already jumped through hoops to prove them to government. And what we want to be able to do is say, okay, so you've jumped through the hoops to prove it to government, and now you want to use that piece of information that you've already proven to government to prove it to somebody in the private sector. But we're consulting on how we can do that in a way that feels safe, that is secure, and that doesn't lead to data leakage that people aren't comfortable with. So that consultation is live at the moment, and we're really excited to get the feedback. Our hardest policy challenge will continue to be trust. It is so important that we bring people with us, that we keep explaining what it is we're doing and what it is we're not doing, and that we continue to be open to the legitimate criticism and concerns that may come our way, as well as to industry coming to us and saying, we've got exciting new things we want to be doing. It needs to flex to enable that. So I am, as I say, I was delighted to be invited to speak at this and to be able to learn the lessons of what's happening internationally, but also to be able to hear from people around the world as they look at the approach we're taking in the UK and to be open to challenge, to be open to learning, and to be open to getting it right, so that we can secure those benefits that we really do see for digital identity use, of economic growth, of increased privacy and security and protection against crime. So I wish you all a brilliant rest of the conference, and thank you for inviting me to be here today.